Hi, how's it going?
Pretty good.
Oh, glad to hear it. Well, thank you for taking the time to do this interview. Been a huge fan of Ringworm for a very long time, and it's an honor to be able to promote the brand new album Snake Church.
Cool. Thanks.
Oh, not a problem. So, what went into the songwriting for the new album?
Well, not much different than our past releases. I mean, we're pretty streamlined when it comes to recording. So, Matt handles the lion's share of the songwriting stuff, and I pretty much do the words. So when it comes time to do a new record, we take a few things under advisement, kind of like, I don't know, maybe like an overall feel of the record. You know what I mean? Our formula is pretty simple, so we don't try to monkey with that too much. But we try to shake it up. Like, do we want to put maybe slower tracks on it, or just slight changes in it? But the songwriting process hasn't really changed. It's really simple. He just writes some songs, and I sing over them. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a great formula that really doesn't need to be messed with because for so long, every Ringworm album just has that definitive sound of you guys, and it's not something that really needs to be messed with at all. It just sounds great every time.
Well, cool. Thanks. But there's at this point, I mean, there's really no need to change much. I think if we're quote unquote one trick pony, it's a really good fucking trick. So there's really no need to change up the formula too much. I mean, we still don't we don't like to make the same record twice. And all things considered, but we don't also want to go ahead and change a style that we're really comfortable with and we think still works. So.
Oh yeah, and it's no different on Snake Church. I mean, it does sound different than your other albums, but it still has the definitive Ringworm sound, which I appreciate.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I agree with that. So, I mean, but every record has its own identity to it, which is nice. I mean, there's something about every record that makes it, have a personality of its own. So we think this one's pretty much follows right along and works out really well.
So what would you say the identity is of the new album?
Well, I mean, lyrically speaking, you could really break down almost any of our records, and lyrically, I'm usually in the same, I deal with the same subject matter as every record we've ever done. I'm not really trying to change the world. I'm not, it's very rarely, overtly political or anything like that. I just kind of approach every record as just how I feel about what I see going on and how I feel about, everyday, the human condition, and how it applies to me. So in that respect, lyrically, it's the same approach as with every record. There's really no need to write about anything that I don't know about or, things like that. And musically, that would be probably a little more Matt's department than mine. But I could say it's after being around for as long as we have and putting out as many records that we have, however many that is, going back to what I said earlier, you don't want to do the same thing twice. But, with this one, we kind of try to branch out different tempos, some things that we, some tempos we haven't really, haven't used as much, maybe here or there throughout our discography. But this one we tried to maybe change things up slightly and kind of put some more songs, that, have a little more variance to it, I guess you could say. But, the identity of this one, it just that's really not for me really to totally decide. That's for the listener to figure, to listen to it and I guess judge it with, hold it up next to the other records and see how it fares.
Well, I can definitely say from the listens I've been able to give it so far, I definitely say it's one of the best albums that you guys have done in quite some time. I mean, it feels very fresh for 2016, and I do love the variances that are going on, especially like Shades of Blue, for example, putting a more slower song in the middle of the album so it doesn't feel like it's just fast songs all the time. I like that kind of variation in the track listing.
Yeah, we like that song. Usually it's like the songs, like the slower songs. Obviously, I have a lot. They're more challenging for me because I don't really sing. I just scream and yell. I mean, I'm sure I have my own. Hold on 1 second, please. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, not a problem.
Hello.
Oh, still here.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry about that. That was a work call.
Oh, not a problem.
So where was I?
We were talking about Shades of Blue and doing more of the slower songs.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the slower songs are a little bit more challenging for me, too, because like I was saying, I don't really, I don't have tons of range. So like the slower songs are a little more challenging to me, and that one kind of came together pretty well, I think, all things considered. So usually For slower songs, historically we put those towards the end of the record as like a close or something. I thought the song was kind of strong enough and a nice groove to it. I'm like, well, let's put it in the middle of the record, almost kind of like a break between, all the, the faster, more aggressive songs, and put a nice break in the middle of the record. Although, that type of stuff, as far as song order on records goes, that I still make a big deal out of that, like as far as song order goes. But these days people listen to music in a completely different way. It's rarely do you find people put on a record and do it from start to finish. That's usually on their iPod or whatever device they're using, and it's on shuffle. So a lot of songs are taken out of context when you put a lot of time into putting the order together so it flows really smooth. But it's still important to me. I'm sure there's still a few people that'll, if the record's good enough, they'll put it on and listen to it from start to finish. So that's why we kind of put that one in the middle, just as kind of like a little break between all the fast, vicious songs. We put a slow, vicious song in the middle.
Oh yeah, and I'm definitely one of those people as well. I love being able to hear an album from start to finish. I want to know which songs I feel the strongest, see if there's any filler in an album. I want to make sure that when I digest an album, that I can appreciate every song that the band is recording out there. And I definitely get that from this one this time around too. I mean, just like you said, starting off aggressive, ending aggressive, but right in the middle has a nice little break so you can catch your breath and make it through the rest of the album.
Sure. I mean, and this record is quite a bit shorter than our last record. So, with the last record, we were real happy with Hammer the Witch. We were pretty happy with that. But when looking back on it, we thought, maybe it was just a little bit too long. It's not that the songs are bad, but just, maybe it was just a little bit too many songs, So with this one, we were like, well, screw it. Let's just make a little bit, make it a shorter record, more quick, more to the point. And that's why we put that song in the middle, because there's really no other place for it. If we put it at the end, it would kind of lose its effect. So we put it right in the middle of the record, as like we're saying, just almost like a break in the action, really quick. So real quick, but then it gets right back to it, though.
Oh, very much so. So with that conscious effort to try to make a shorter album with less songs in the track listing, was there any material that didn't make the cut for this record, or was all the songs written
pretty much? As far as I could think back, and I'm sure there may be a couple of songs, but usually whatever we write gets on the record. We don't have, like I said, when we record, it's very streamlined, and that goes with writing too. We don't write tons of extra songs and do a lot of pre-promotion or pre-production, excuse me. So we kind of write with the intent of every song being on the record, and 90% of the time it usually does. So with this time around, there was really no extra songs. We did record a couple of the songs earlier, and we used those different versions for a couple of Split 7 Inches, and we did a couple of cover songs. And that was more or less to kind of, because our new drummer, who's been our fill-in drummer for the past 10 years, when either our drummer Danny or our previous drummer Chris couldn't do a tour, we would get Ryan to fill in. And for years of doing that, kind of, he wore us down. So finally, we were like, yeah, you're in the band, 100%. So, but we had never recorded with him. So what we did was we took a couple of the songs that were on, that show up on the new record, and we had a couple of cover songs that we always played out live, just fun, and we did like a Motorhead song and a Venom song. So we're like, well, fuck, let's just record, see how it goes not with our new drummer, like not new to us, but we've never recorded with him before. So we went into the studio and recorded, 4 songs just to get the feel of it, what it's going to be like when we record the record. So, but yeah, so there was really no extras. We trimmed all the fat, and pretty much what we write is what makes the record. Plus, too, it's, we rarely work with a large budget. So, being streamlined and being to the point and getting in there and doing your job saves you money, and time. So you can't go in there and mess around and be like, well, we recorded 3 extra songs, which was, in studio lingo, that usually adds up to a few hundred easy. So it's like when you don't have that you don't have that luxury, you gotta be committed and confident in the material that you write for the record.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense, especially in 2016 with the budget for making an album isn't there as much, depending on your label and your popularity. It is good to just get in there, know your material as fast as possible, and just make it as tight as possible as well. And that's the great thing about having your fill-in drummer now become a part of the band. I would imagine that would be a very smooth transition to be able to get him filled in with the material.
Oh yeah, well that's the thing. He more than, even up to the point when he was not like a full-time member, he, at that point he had done way more hours on tour with the band, knew pretty much our complete catalog because, he had to learn the old songs, the new songs, the song, he had to learn everything. So it was a no-brainer. He's a great kid, and, he's not a kid anymore, I guess, but we still call him a kid because, that's how that goes. But, yeah, it worked pretty smoothly and pretty smoothly. So, yeah. So, once we got into the studio, it worked out really good because, as you were saying, the money is always tight, and we're pretty fortunate because we're one of those bands that's it's meat and potatoes. We don't require a lot of fuss or a lot of studio time to get accomplished what we want to get accomplished. I can only imagine that some bands have grown accustomed to huge budgets when and maybe to the point where they maybe they couldn't record on a $4,000 budget. They wouldn't know how to do it. So we've grown accustomed to that we enjoy that so much, but that's what we always have to deal with, and that's not a problem if you go in there and do your job and just hammer it out.
Yeah, and when you have that kind of pressure of especially money going into it, it requires you to become that much stronger with the material before going in. That way you're not wasting any studio time.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to be prepared and go in there and just do your job. You don't have a lot of time to, okay, well, let's, like a lot of bands, they I don't know what their situations are, but if someone else is paying for your studio time, some bands have their own studios, and that's cool. We don't, but I mean, like when you talk about going to the studio and writing songs while you're in the studio, that's not a amenity we've ever been able to afford. So we try to be as prepared as we can, because there's always, hiccups and some roadblocks that you face every time you go into the studio. Sounds don't work, or something's off. But that's with every time you record. So the more prepared you are and ready to go, the easier it's going to make everything.
Was there any major issues this time around, or was it just minor stuff that normally happens when you record a record?
Yeah, just minor stuff. I mean, we've been, like I said, even since well, maybe not early on, but say with our, the demo was actually pretty good. The first record was where we probably worked out all the bugs and studio problems that you could possibly have, so, and that's a whole nother story about our first record. But since then, we've been pretty good with stuff. I mean, everyone shows up there to do their job, and it works out really well. So, and same can be said about this one. When I went in to do the vocals for this one, I was sick as a dog. So when I think I'm like, my voice is roached. I've had laryngitis for 2 weeks. I got a fever. It's like, oh well, you got to go in there and do it. I think there's maybe one day that I just felt that I couldn't pull it off. But other than that, that's on my end. That's usually what I'm facing. Usually when it comes time to do the vocals, I'm sick. So it's like, of course. But, you got to do what you got to do. So, and that's one thing fortunate about my vocal style, I guess you could say. It's like, I don't have to worry about being in E with anything, because as long as I can do that well, then I'm in good shape.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, with the more singers that I talk to, the more I always hear about it, either right before they go into the studio or just 2 or 3 days into touring, their voice starts to really affect them. And if they do any kind of clean singing at all, it really messes with their sound. But thankfully, when you do screams and growls, you don't have to worry about it as much.
Right. I mean, that's good. I mean, I wish I could. Everyone's always like, why don't, over the years, people are like, oh, you going to sing anything? I'm like, no. I mean, if I'm going to attempt to do anything like that, I would do it in another one of my bands. I'll just keep this one nice and neat the way it is, So, yeah, I'm a firm believer if you can't do it well, then, maybe you shouldn't do it. I don't know. But that's why I just kind of keep things, a lot of people could say I'm monotone, and they wouldn't be wrong. It is just, I do what I do, so, I don't really sweat it too much. It's, we're not Pink Floyd or any, we're not Rush, so we just kind of do our own thing.
Yeah, you guys do your own thing, and you do it so well. I mean, there is no major need to change anything with what you guys are doing, as long as you guys are able to keep making new material.
Yeah, as far as for after being around as long as have, you kind of see a musical bell curve. At some points in our career, we were new. When we were a new band, it's new and there's a buzz and popular. And and then people kind of get used to our sound and maybe sometimes take it for granted when there's all types of new styles coming out and coming in and out of fashion, and we've just kind of continued straight forward. So, seems like every few years, people get hip to it, and then that's good because then they stick with it, So as we go, we try not to change, and that's a good thing. So it's like you wouldn't want to hear, Bolt Thrower do a love ballad, you know what I mean, or AC/DC do a thrash metal song, So everyone's got, we're comfortable in our own skin right now. So
absolutely, and I would imagine with popularity that might be starting to get back even more on the rise now with you guys being in the Secret Life of Pets. How did that all come about?
Well, you know what? To be honest with you, I don't know. That's that was from a Victory record that we did in 2005. So that was a surprise to me too. I got a message from someone that said that asked me about the movie, and I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I'll probably go see it. I like those movies. It looks funny. She's like, no, you're in it. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're full of shit. So I went back and checked, and sure as hell we were. That was mostly Victory, all of Victory doing. So we're still trying to figure that one out. But they own the publishing to that stuff on their label. So we're working all that out. But it's a cool thing. It definitely spiked our public appearance a little bit more. More people heard about us, especially because we stick out like a sore thumb on that soundtrack next to Taylor Swift and Frankie Valli and stuff like that. So I'm sure even in the negative light, that's still pretty good. People will be like, that'll be the song they have to fast forward on their kid's CD when they buy them the soundtrack,
Or that might be the song that they gravitate towards more because when they're so used to hearing Taylor Swift that they hear something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's a fun thing. It's a fun thing to be a part of. So funny shit happens. Funny stuff happens when you're in a band for forever. You just I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it, how that all went down, but it's pretty cool.
So I haven't seen the movie yet, so I don't know the scene that where it has the song. Do you think it fits in context to what's going on?
Yeah, it's like I did see the movie, and it's only in there briefly. Like most of the soundtracks are these days mostly composed music, and then you have certain bursts, a few seconds of the soundtrack song. Except for Taylor Swift, hers is like the theme song, of course. But we're in there for like maybe 4 seconds. It's like a party scene. All the animals are partying and stuff at this house, so it kind of fits into context with our rep guest. It's a pretty rowdy scene.
Oh, that's awesome. So do you feel the need to make sure that's included in the set in the future?
Well, you know what? That song, I think we've only played that song once. Well, played a few times. We went out and done, maybe a couple years ago, we did a tour for that album, 10th anniversary, and we just did that entire album start to finish. And that song in particular is not one that's usually in our repertoire that we do from that record in our regular set. So who knows? Maybe we'll throw that in there, It's not, we know it, so maybe if someone asks us, we'll play it. It's a fun song. It's a really good song. So.
Oh yeah. So and speaking of the live shows, what are the current plans for the rest of the year?
Well, let's see. We do. It's kind of strange. It's strange and good because with the timing of when our record comes out, which is on the 29th of July, we felt we didn't really want to do a lot. Like we have a certain amount of time. Every individual, we have a certain amount of time that we can devote to life on the road, so to speak. We have. And, we're more than willing to do the work, but, we're not one of those bands that can stay out, 250 days out of the year. Because, real lives and our personal lives and jobs and, house mortgages and businesses and all that shit. So, it kind of worked out because we had this whole summer off, which was amazing because usually we're gone during the summer and we're all able to take care of business at home and, get ready for, when the record comes out, go hit out and tour. So, because once we go, we're out for quite a while. So it worked out pretty good. What we got coming up, we're doing a U.S. tour in October. And then we come home for a couple weeks, and then we do Europe. And then after that, it's kind of up in the air. We have some plans, but they're all together now. But the October tour is lined up and ready to go. That's a whole U.S. tour. And then Europe is falling into place right now. So, yeah. That's what we got. Well, we're doing This Is Hardcore coming up in August, and then other than that, the October stuff.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. I'm glad to hear about all the new touring that's going to be in promotion for the new album, Snake Church, which comes out on the 29th. I highly recommend it for anyone checking out this interview, and it's just fantastic to be able to talk to you after being a fan for so long, and all the new promotion that's going on for you guys. And thank you once again for taking the time to do this interview.
No, it's not a problem, man. Yeah, we appreciate it, dude. We understand that there's kind of, it's not really easy, being in I guess you could say, a professional band for so long, because it does take it. There's a lot of sacrifices you got to make, so it's nice to see a little return on it, not monetary, but a little return as far as, like, people finally, maybe, not the older fans like yourself, but a lot of newer ones. The older ones that stuck with us, kind of followed us, in our, ups and downs and growing pains and all that, and especially the newer ones that are just getting hip to us right now that are like, think that we're a new band. We're like, no, we're not a new band. We've been around for longer than you've been alive. So it's, and that's not really exaggerating. So, it's nice to see that, it's gratifying to see that people are still hip to it and getting, currently getting hip to it,
Oh, yeah, and with all the new Taylor Swift fans that you're going to be converting from the
Sure.
Secret Life of
Well, I'm
Pets.
not going to say from this record that, from that soundtrack that I'm going to be buying a Bentley or anything, but, she may be my date to the Kids' Choice Awards after party. Who knows? Things may happen. We'll see. Those are big, crazy parties, so we'll see. But yeah. But yeah, thanks for the interview, and buy the new record when it comes out.